It's an outrage, a shameless, unhealthy, and ruinous persecution against FC Barcelona. Once again, Javier Tebas, the president of La Liga, has decided to target the greatest club in the world, the institution they cannot control, the banner of nonconformity that refuses to submit to outside powers. And the worst part? He does it at the very moment Barca begins to rise again, just as hope returns to light up the Camp Nou with the signings of players like Marcus Rashford or the young Scandinavian talent Rooney Bjici, who represent not just the arrival of talent, but also confirmation that this board, led by Joan Laporta, is prepared to do whatever it takes to see the club back at the top of Europe. If you're an unconditional fan of FC Barcelona, subscribe now and tell me in the comments what you think of this war that Tebas has reignited against Barca, a war they will lose, as they have so many times in the past. But here comes Tebas again, as always, pointing an accusing finger, talking about improperly obtained registrations, financial fair play irregularities, and how Barca doesn't respect the rules. And of course, the media, which feeds on anti-Madrid sentiment, loves to amplify every word to reach the average fan, to build the narrative that Barca is responsible for everything wrong in Spanish football. Pure hypocrisy. Where were these obstacles when other clubs spent hundreds of millions without oversight? Where were these speeches about legality when they turned a blind eye to scandalous deals? What really bothers them, what truly burns them, is that Barca is still alive. That despite the blows, the hostile refereeing, the media campaigns, and the institutional attacks, we continue to recruit, to compete, and to build a team that makes all of Europe dream. Rashford, that fast, electric, and clinical forward, already strikes fear into rivals. Barge, a diamond Laporta managed to tie to the club, is proof of a project that thinks about both the present and the future. And of course, Tebas can't stand to see Barca strong. He can't stand that, without his blessing, this club can rise again like a phoenix. That's why he persecutes, why he resurrects ghosts, why he invents legal wars. But what he didn't expect was Laporta's response, blunt, head-on, and fiery, a statement that blows up every headline. Barca will no longer be walked all over. Laporta has planted his flag once more. There is no submission. There is no fear. The days of lowering our heads are over, and his words are not just a rant, but a battle cry against the system that has tried to smother the club with bureaucracy. The Cules membership, the supporter who bleeds blue and claret, cannot remain silent, because this isn't just about Barca, it's about respect, dignity, and defending what they want to tear from us with lawsuits. They will never succeed against the greatness this badge represents. This is nothing new. This hostility goes back years, to crossed statements, to systematic attempts to weaken Barca. Javier Tebas has never hidden his animosity toward the Blaugrana club, and every season, he finds a different reason to open a case, sow doubt, and instill mistrust. From the famous salary cap case to the obstacles for registering players already under contract, to this new chapter with Rashford and Barge, it's all part of the same story, a La Liga president who wants to be the protagonist on the pitch. It's as if Tebas takes more pleasure in seeing Barca suffer than in seeing Spanish football progress as a whole. The irony is that Barca, whether they like it or not, has always been the engine of this league. How many foreign fans clung to the championship because of Messi, Xavi, Iniesta, Ronaldinho? How many children in Asia and America have tattooed the Blaugrana colors in their hearts? They know that without Barca, La Liga loses its shine, but instead of cherishing it, they attack it. Tebas insists that not everything is allowed in economic matters. Fine. But who regulates the others? Where was Ferrio when rival clubs made transfers with blank checks without justifying their balances? The double standards are obvious, the persecution is obvious, the Barcaphobia is obvious. The root of this entire war lies in one key point. Joan Laporta does not submit. He is not a docile president. He is a leader who disrupts, and that infuriates the established power. That's why, after Barca's strong start to the season, where the team is already positioning itself as a favorite with its renewed attack and a squad that looks fresh, the easiest solution was to spark a new controversy. The registration of Rashford and Barge, two important names for the present and future, became the perfect excuse to ignite a media storm. And it's no coincidence, every time Laporta takes a step forward, Tebas looks for a wall, but walls can also be torn down. Amid this hurricane, Joan Laporta did not hide. His words echoed in every office, every debate, every headline. And these are not just statements, they are dynamite. Laporta made it clear that La Liga cannot treat Barca as public enemy number one, because Barca is a pillar of the competition and will not yield an inch to injustice. His response was direct. He said what every Cule feels. Enough. Enough excuses. Enough persecution. Enough trying to hold Barca back with twisted laws. The club has followed the rules. The club has worked. The club has cleaned up its accounts with enormous sacrifices, selling assets, cutbacks, strategic bets. There is no illegality here. There is reconstruction. What matters most is that Laporta struck back where it hurts the most, on the grounds of morality and narrative. When he states that Barca will no longer be walked all over, he plants a flag so every Cule knows the fight continues, that there is no surrender. Barcelonismo needed these words like air. Because yes, we can win or lose matches, but what we can never lose is our dignity. Rashford makes us dream, Barge moves us, but the true engine of Barcelonismo is seeing that the person leading the club does not hide. And that's what Tebas can't stand, that Laporta, even in crisis, always faces problems head-on. Why so much noise around Rashford and Barge? Because they represent much more than just players. Rashford is not just a media signing, he's a statement. Taking a top forward from the Premier League at this moment demonstrates Barca's competitive strength. And Barge, at just 19, is the jewel of Scandinavia, a talent coveted by an entire continent. Tebas knows full well that their arrival changes the game. With them, the Cule attack gains explosiveness. Speed, verticality, youth, and hunger are the symbols that, despite economic sanctions, despite the no-money narrative, Barca is reinventing itself and making strategic signings. The controversy over the alleged improper registration is just smoke. Both players met the deadlines. Both were registered under the same rules that other clubs have exploited 1,000 times. But of course, because it's Barca, it's immediately turned into a national scandal. The pro-Tebas press doesn't waste time talking about irregularities and suspicious operations. Please, what's suspicious is not applying the same scrutiny to others. Rashford was announced on time. Barge met the registration requirements, yet the noise persists. It's a repeated scenario, accuse first, prove never. But what they won't be able to stop is the excitement. The Camp Nou, even still under construction, roars at the thought of seeing Rashford make his debut, of seeing Barge launch impossible diagonals. And against this excitement, Tebas can do nothing. The real underlying issue here isn't whether Barca is following the rules or not, because the numbers, the balances, and the contracts have already passed the test. The real problem is the double standard by which the Blaugrana club is judged. If a rival registers players with strange operations, everything happens in silence. When it's Barca, files are opened, headlines multiply, documents are leaked. It's the classic theater to paint the picture that Barca constantly lives in illegality, that Barca plays dirty. But Cules are not naive. We know what really bothers them is the symbolic weight. When Barca recruits, it makes headlines worldwide. When Barca wins, viewership skyrockets. And that's why those who should be protecting the league's integrity use it as a weapon of attrition. The double standard is the best proof that there is no equal treatment. The club has made enormous sacrifices, selling stars, activating economic levers, renewing contracts with salary adjustments. No other European giant has had to tighten its belt so much, and yet we are singled out as suspects. Barca fans must understand this clearly. This is not a one-off attack, it's a system. And in this system, Tebas plays the role of the self-righteous enforcer who only points in one direction. But history shows that every time they've tried to stop Barca, we've come back stronger. Talking about Barca means talking about resistance, not just a football club, but a symbol that has risen again and again against those who try to silence it, subdue it, or erase it as a power. The current battle with Tebas is just another chapter in a long history marked by the struggle against external powers. For Cules, this is nothing new. It's in the club's DNA. Resist first, conquer later. FC Barcelona cannot be understood without this narrative of opposition to the established power. In the darkest years of the dictatorship, when even the Catalan language and culture were persecuted, Barca Stadium became a refuge of freedom. Does he really think a La Liga president, with all his political ego, can censor what Barca represents? What we're seeing today is nothing compared to what has already been overcome in the past. But the difference now is that we're not just talking about political symbols. We're talking about modern football, numbers, balances, economic operations that become weapons. On this field, Tebas tries to paint Barca as the villain in a repeated narrative. The club that doesn't follow the rules, that cheats, that bends regulations, as if the others live in a world of absolute purity and honesty. Pure hypocrisy. And what's fascinating is that every attack only strengthens the unity of Barcelonismo. When Tebas points an accusing finger, Cules shrug, get angry, rally, and feel even more a part of something that transcends football. Laporta, who is a political animal as well as a sports executive, knows this perfectly. That's why he doesn't shy away from confrontation. He seeks it, because he understands that in this confrontation, the club's historical memory is activated. The signings of Rashford and Barge fit into this narrative as perfect pieces of an epic story. They are symbols of the new Cules army, soldiers arriving to fight under a badge that has been under attack from the offices. Rashford brings the aura of a star, a global reference, someone who adds international prestige to the squad. Barge brings the romance of youth, emerging talent, the new Ronaldinho everyone is waiting for, and together, they represent what Tebas hates, a Barca that, despite the walls, continues to grow stronger. Barcelonismo doesn't forget that this club has always risen again, that every attempt to bury it has ended in a historic comeback. We've lived it with the 6-1 against PSG, with epic Champions League victories, even in seasons when no one gave us a chance and we ended up lifting trophies. That's what we are, resistance turned into legend. Tebas, by attacking Barca now, is only writing the prologue to another epic that will end as always, with the club surviving and growing. Barca is not cornered, it's preparing the counterattack. There's one thing Tebas has never understood: Barca is a global family. It's not just a Catalan club, nor even just a Spanish one. It's a global identity, a brotherhood that unites millions of people, and when someone attacks, that brotherhood tightens more than ever. The fans know it. In tough times, the club needs human warmth the most. We've seen it in the flags, in the chants, in how Montjuic has become a temporary fortress. There's an atmosphere that hasn't been felt in a long time, all together against all outsiders. Every member, every subscriber, understands that buying a ticket and cheering until their voice is gone is an act of resistance against Javier Tebas and his unhealthy obsession. Laporta, more than ever, has placed himself at the center of the stage with a speech that calls for unity. When he says Barca won't allow itself to be trampled again, he's not just sending a message to the league, but to every Cules who feels part of this struggle. Tebas's big mistake was underestimating what a common enemy unifies. This unity is also reflected in the squad. The players feel it. Rashford, just arrived, already knows that wearing blue and claret means being more than a forward. It means being a soldier in a war against a system. Barge, despite his youth, finds himself in a club that, instead of doubting him, protects him, surrounds him, and makes him a symbol of the future. Cules unity is measured in press conferences, in the locker room, in the stands, in the murmur of the city. Let's not forget that Barca makes passions vibrate in every corner of the planet. In Asia, in the Americas, in Africa, millions of fans tune in to follow every move, to buy every jersey. These fans also feel this war against Tebas. They see it as a global club facing off against a local, provincial adversary. And this global perception also fuels our strength. Subscribe and make your voice heard. It will make you even prouder. Watching how Barcelonismo unites against attacks, how the provisional camp new pulses with every goal. What moves you most about this common front we've built against those who want to belittle us? Together, we are a wall that no bullet can pierce. Make no mistake. Barca doesn't just defend itself with words. Barca responds with football. If there's one thing that has always defined this institution, it's that external attacks only multiply our passion to play better, to step onto the pitch with more skill, more excitement, more hunger. And this start to the season proves it. While Tebas talks and talks about improperly obtained registrations, the Blaugrana team speaks in the language everyone understands, the language of goals and victories. The first league matches have brought convincing performances, defensive solidity, and a spark in attack. Rashford is already shaping up to be a player who will immediately change Barca's offensive dynamic. His diagonals, his speed, his precision in the final third are a weapon that already strikes fear. Rival defenders know they can't give him an inch, because if they do, he will destroy them. And Barge, though not yet an undisputed starter, has shown flashes that drive fans wild. An impossible dribble in tight spaces, a threaded pass that breaks defensive lines, an audacity uncommon for his age. This kind of resource is exactly what Barca needed. youth with the hunger to devour the world. In the end, football is the truth that no one can manipulate. There is no Tebas, no media campaign that can hide a score. There is no file that can erase a Rashford goal in the 90th minute or an exquisite Barge assist that ends in victory. That's why Cules can sleep easy, knowing that while we're attacked from the outside, we have 11 gladiators inside ready to do battle on the pitch, where it really matters. And it's not just about winning matches, but how we win them. With personality, with style, with that Barca DNA that never dies, possession, high pressing, and confidence. What Tebas doesn't understand is that the way Barca plays, this aesthetic of greatness, is also a political response. You can attack us in the offices, but on the pitch, we are art, magic, pure rebellion. There, Cules, lies football as a banner, football as justice, football as the most beautiful revenge. When people talk about Rashford and Barge, many reduce them to names on a transfer list. Big mistake. They represent so much more. They embody the essence of a project that refuses to die. They represent the audacity of a club that, against all odds, manages to strengthen itself with elite talent. Marcus Rashford arrives at the perfect moment. We're not talking about a player at the end of his career. We're talking about someone in his prime, who combines experience and physicality, and still has several years of top-level football ahead of him. His presence means something huge. Barca is once again signing world-class stars despite all the obstacles. It's a brutal change in narrative, from "there's no money, no options," to having one of Europe's most sought-after forwards in the squad. On his part, Rooney Barge is the bet on the future that sparks envy across Europe. Raw talent, audacity, freshness. A young player who can grow in an environment of excellence, surrounded by legends and with the Camp Nou as the stage for his dreams, represents confirmation that Barca isn't just thinking about the present, but also the next decade. And this duality, Rashford for the present, Barge for the future, is Laporta's masterstroke. It bothers Tebas, it bothers the rivals, because it shows that Barca isn't just thinking about surviving, but dominating again. It's a message to the world: we are not giving up, we are fighting. When the league questions the registration of these players, it's not just questioning two files. It's questioning what it means for Barcelonismo to see them debut. It's questioning the fact that, even under their watch, we continue to grow. Every time they step onto the pitch, Rashford and Barge will carry not just the jersey, but the rebellion of the entire Barca on their shoulders. They are tangible proof that the Blaugrana project is still alive and breathing stronger than ever. There is an open war not only from the league offices, but also on another front, the media. And it needs to be said clearly. A large part of the Spanish press has been complicit in this campaign against FC Barcelona. Every word uttered by Tebas is multiplied in headlines, debates, and titles that seek one thing: to create the public perception that Barca is guilty before any proof. This strategy is not new. For years, narratives have been built to wear down our club. Just remember how Barca's defeats were amplified, while the failures of others were downplayed. Just look at how economic levers are talked about as if they were a fraudulent invention, when in reality, they are perfectly legitimate economic mechanisms that other clubs have applied in silence without receiving a single headline. The latest example is Rashford and Barge. A blockbuster signing becomes an improper registration. Cules excitement is framed in the media as a financial problem. The maneuver is clear: turn every success into a weapon of attrition. And of course, Barca's enemies celebrate every headline as if it were a goal. But beware. Here, too, the Cule has the last word. Let's not forget that for years, Barca has fought narratives by playing football from another galaxy. Journalists could say what they wanted, but when Messi, Iniesta, and company crushed everything in their path, no discourse could resist. Today, the situation is similar. They want to paint us as the villains, but the ball and the new signings can become the most devastating response to this media manipulation. Barca is not alone. Behind every media attack, there are millions of angry Cules shouting, "We won't be fooled anymore." One of the most fascinating aspects of this new Barca is how the squad has absorbed all this external storm. Often, footballers could be distracted or demoralized by so much outside noise. But in this dressing room, the opposite is happening. The attacks have strengthened internal unity. Xavi Hernandez, who understands the Blaugrana DNA better than anyone, has turned the discourse of resistance into fuel for his team. Every press conference makes it clear: we must respond on the pitch with football, and the players repeat it in private. They want to sink us, but it makes us stronger. This mindset has allowed for a solid start to the season with a team that already shows chemistry in every line. Rashford doesn't arrive as a distant star, he arrives as a soldier fully committed to this fight. His first statements were humble, acknowledging that he is joining the club of his dreams and pledging to give his all on the pitch. This touches the fans, but it also inspires the dressing room. Seeing a world-renowned player arrive with this warrior attitude lifts everyone's morale. Barge, on the other hand, brings freshness and courage. In training, he doesn't hide, he takes on the veterans, looks for the ball, and makes bold moves. It's like a reminder to the others that there is a future, that there is a youth ready to fight, and that also brings everyone together. The mental strength of this team is what should worry Tebas the most, because when a dressing room stands united, the offices tremble. There is no sanction or venomous news that can penetrate a team convinced of its mission. And what we see today is precisely that, a group aware of being under attack, but determined to respond with sweat and football.